Okay, last time I stopped at this one theorem, which I said characterizes hyperbolic spaces. So, okay, so if you have a simply connected Riemann 2 manifold with -1 curvature.
Karthik, can you please revise the what was Gaussian curvature?
Gaussian curvature, it is not easy to say. Gaussian curvature.
I think you defined for some special kind of metric.
Yeah, like that is a formula for special metric, but definition is slightly
But
involved.
last is material.
It is. I will just write it down what it is. So
Yeah, sure.
if you have any such metric on R2 or any open subset of R2, if you have this, then your Gaussian curvature will be given by this. Okay, so this will be Gaussian curvature. You can look at some Riemannian geometry, differential geometry books. They will take some curves and they will take some eigenvalues and say multiply some eigenvalues, you will get the Gaussian curvature. But whatever, using that definition or using this as a definition, we will talk about Gaussian curvature. So if you have curvature -1 and everything else is same, you will get your space isometric to the upper half space. If you have Gaussian curvature 0, then you will get R2 with the regular metric. Then if you have +1, then you will get S2 with also a regular metric. Okay, so this is what I meant by the curvature characterizes the space. So if you change the curvature, you will get different spaces. Okay, one is hyperbolic, the other is flat, the last one is elliptic. Okay. Okay, so we can forget this for now. Let us continue doing some other classical geometric stuff. Like
Karthik, is isomorphism in hyperbolic geometry is isometry?
yeah.
Okay.
Isomorphisms will be isometric.
Okay, so this upper half plane and disk are isometric. So we just need to study one of those, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we can use either one at any point we want.
Okay, whichever is simpler. Okay.
Yeah. So trigonometry. So as we can do trigonometry in R2, there is like a very similar formula for hyperbolic space also. Okay, suppose look at the disk model and take a triangle with alpha, beta, gamma as its angles and ABC as its sides. Then we have the following. Okay. You don't have to remember these formulas. It's just you have to notice that these look like this is like the sine rule. I think this is the cosine rule. Okay, one of these is the cosine rule, and this is like the sine rule. So basically, like the trigonometric operations you can do on R2, you have some similar notions in hyperbolic space as well. Not just hyperbolic space, you also have the same thing, similar things on S2 as well. It is slightly different, but they look very similar. Okay. Okay, so this was trigonometry. So you can think of like since we have grown up thinking about everything in R2, we feel that is very natural and we feel we can do a lot of things there. You can also think of the same thing in hyperbolic space. Like this is also a very homogeneous space where every point looks like every other, and if there's a lot of symmetry around, and you have a lot of formulas relating triangles as well. So these three spaces you have to think as the so these are homogeneous spaces. These have lots of symmetries. Maybe you don't need to know why these are the only three homogeneous spaces right now, but yeah, these are like, you can consider these as building blocks for Riemannian 2 manifolds. Okay. Okay. Now we move on to something more important. Okay. So we have a lot of isometries on the upper half space. Okay, I'll just let's just see what happens. So our hyperbolic isometries, they are just maps from the disk to the disk, the interior of the disk to the interior. But we also know that they are all Mobius transforms. So Mobius transforms, we can extend it to the boundary. So they are also continuous. They are biholomorphic, but they are also continuous. So we can think of these isometries as maps from D-closure to D-closure. So so all isometries can also be considered as continuous maps between the unit disk by Brouwer's fixed point theorem. there is at least one fixed point. Okay, so any isometry of H or the hyperbolic space will have a fixed point. The fixed point could be in the interior or on the boundary, and we will try to classify based on that. Okay, so suppose there are more than suppose there are at least two fixed points.
Karthik.
Huh?
So previously, when you denote something like from declosure to declosure, does the interior goes to the interior and the boundary goes to the boundary?
Yeah, that happens, but that is not that is true in for this case, but that I am not concerned with that right now.
No, I was just, was it enough if I can say that the boundary, I mean, if I look at the image from boundary to boundary,
Hmm.
and then do I have to need what is the map inside? I mean, can the whole map be defined by the map that takes the boundary to the boundary? I don't know. It's something of this kind I have read on complex numbers or something like a map,
So
a continuous map on the boundary defines uniquely a. Oh, sorry. Here the map takes d1 to d1. Yeah, just a random thought.
see, I don't know if there is a continuous map from boundary to boundary, and you know it extends to the interior as a
Yeah,
holomorphic map, then
yeah,
it is a unique map.
yeah.
No limit points.
Okay. Yeah, that's just equal.
But I don't know if you have jumped some random continuous function
Mhm.
if it extends. Yeah. Yeah. If you know your on the boundary, if your function looks like ax plus b by c, cx plus d or something,
Hmm.
then you know it will be az plus b by cz plus d.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Suppose there are at least two fixed points in D interior. Okay. Suppose there are two fixed points in the interior. Then okay. So we have two fixed points in the interior. It could be any z naught. We know our Mobius group is transitive, so we can find some isometry taking z naught to 0. So first, so we have one isometry with two fixed points. If you pre and post compose by this map, which takes z naught to 0 and 0 to z naught, we can make sure one of the fixed points is 0. We don't know about the other one, but the first one will be 0. Okay, so this is without loss of generality. Without loss of generality, I will assume one of the fixed points is 0. Okay. So now if you apply Schwartz lemma, uh, so the map will be identity because on the interior you'll get the equality for Schwartz lemma, and Schwartz lemma says if you have equality you will have a rotation, but rotation will also be by 0 angle because it is a fixed point. Okay, so what we get is if we have two fixed points in the interior, the map becomes identity. Okay, so if an isometry is non-identity, it can have at most one fixed point in the interior. Okay, okay. Okay, suppose now if okay, so one option is there could be one fixed point in the interiors. Now suppose that there are no fixed points in the interior, so you will have some fixed points on the boundary. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay, now suppose assume that there are at least three fixed points. Okay. So we know that the Mobius maps, it was uniquely triply transitive, which means if you give me any triple Z1, Z2, Z3 going to W1, W2, W3, there is one and only one Mobius map which takes these three to the next three. Okay. So in particular, if you have Z1, Z2, Z3, suppose those are the fixed points, then you know your map takes Z1 to Z1, Z2 to Z2, Z3 to Z3. So there is exactly one map which does that. That is what we get by the uniqueness of triple transitivity. And that one map we know is the identity. Identity does that, so that is the only one. Okay. So okay, because of unique triple transitivity, we will get that this map which had at least three fixed points, it was the identity. Okay. So now again, if we don't have the identity, take some isometry which is not identity and which has no fixed points in the interior, then it can have at most two fixed points on the boundary. Okay. So now uh, Okay, so every hyperbolic isometry can be classified into these three categories. So there is exactly one fixed point in the interior. Then after that, there are no fixed points in the interior, but one on the boundary. Then after that, we have two on the boundary. Okay, these will be given these three names: elliptic, parabolic, and hyperbolic. So from now on, whenever I say hyperbolic isometry, I will mean this kind of hyperbolic, not just isometries of hyperbolic. Okay, so I will call isometries as elliptic isometries or parabolic or hyperbolic.
What is significance of these names? Elliptic, parabolic, and hyperbolic. Geometric significance.
So significance is these fix so if you take ellipses in H, these will fix ellipses. Like ellipse will be taken to an ellipse. For parabolic, it will fix parabolas, and hyperbolic, it will fix hyperbola, basically.
Ellipse in the hyperbolic metric, right? On H.
Yeah. So ellipse will be
Okay.
like, ellipse is defined to be, you take any 2 points, and it is like ellipse is the locus of all points, whose sum between these two, like sum of the lengths from these 2 points is constant. So if you have like 2 points P1 and P2, look at all points X such that distance between X and P1 plus X and P2 is a constant, some given constant. That is an ellipse. Parabola also has some similar definition, hyperbola also. So these are supposed to fix those. That is where the name comes. Okay. But we will never use that. We just use the names. Okay. So examples of these isometries are, for the elliptic case, if you take in the disk model, you take the rotations, z going to e to the I theta z. So this is elliptic because this fixes only 0 and everything else goes to something else. So parabolic, you can take in the upper half space. So this is in D. This is in the upper half space. You take translations like this. So basically z going to c plus a. A is real. If you take things like this, everything in the upper half space is taken to something else. There is no fixed points in the interior. But on the boundary, there is one which is infinity. So infinity will be taken to infinity by this map. Everything else on the real line is also taken to something else. Oh, a not 0. Yeah, we don't want identity. Yeah, so this is a parabolic isometry. It fixes only infinity. Next. So for hyperbolic isometry, again take the upper half space. Look at z going to lambda z. So if this is 0, you take some circle like this, that circle will be taken to some other circle. Okay, that is how this will look. Again, this will fix 0 and infinity, but no other point. Okay, so this is hyperbolic. So if you are given any isometry, you can pre-compose and post-compose by something. You pre-compose and post-compose by something. You can get it to these three forms, like one of these three forms. Okay. So pre-compose and post-compose is also same as take one element and you just conjugate with that element. So if you have H, you do GHG inverse. If you do that, you will end up with one of these. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now we will look at the matrix representations of this. You have ABCD. Okay, so basically when we are looking for fixed points, we are looking for solutions of this equation, right? We are looking for solutions of this equation in our appropriate space. So now this is same as AZ plus. Okay, so this is a quadratic equation, and we are solving this in C infinity, let's say. Okay. So let us restrict ourselves to the upper half space now. We are in the upper half space. So AZ plus B by CZ plus D. If this has so if this map does not have a real solution, which means there are no fixed points on the real line. I might also, there might be an issue with infinity, but forget about that now, because we can do that as a separate case. So for now, suppose this has no real solutions, which means this has no solution, no fixed points on the boundary. So this must have a fixed point on the interior. So this is elliptic. Right? If this had a real solution, sorry, if it had no real solutions, then we would have elliptic isometry. If so if it had only one real solution, there would only be one fixed point on the boundary, so it is parabolic.
Do we need some conditions on ABCD so that it doesn't have infinity as a root?
It is C not 0.
Okay.
So if C is 0, then we'll do a separate case and we'll get similar things.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now we have characterized elliptic, hyperbolic, and parabolic isometries in terms of the number of solutions of this polynomial. This polynomial has real coefficients. So we can just look, by looking at the coefficients, we can tell, like if b square minus 4ac is doing that, looking at that discriminant, we can tell if it has whatever kind of solution. So I will not directly calculate, I'll just write down what the discriminant is.
Just one more question. What is solving in C infinity means?
It's like you are finding solutions in the complex plane, or infinity is also one possible solution.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but if we take C not equal to 0, that is not an issue. We will only be in the complex plane.
C infinity is C union infinity.
Yeah. So basically, like infinity could have been a solution to this, which you can just handle in a separate way.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay. So if we take so if you take any isometry here, it is a Mobius transform, which will give A, B, C, D, which will give like a matrix here. But that matrix is not well defined. You can multiply by a minus I, and you'll get a different matrix representing the same thing. But if you look at the trace of this matrix and take modulus, that minus sign will not matter anymore. So basically, this modulus of trace of A is a well-defined thing for the isometry. Okay, so that is well defined. And if so this trace is just coming from the discriminant being positive, negative, or 0. Okay. So what we have now is, if you give any isometry, just by looking at its matrix, I can tell if it is an elliptic, parabolic, or hyperbolic isometry. Okay, just by taking trace and seeing if it is positive, more than 2, less than 2, or equal to. Okay. So one definition you should know is, so our hyperbolic isometries, they fix 2 points on the boundary. Okay, so if you have 2 points on the boundary, you will get a unique geodesics passing through them, right? So you have a disk model, say, and you have your hyperbolic isometry fixing this point and this point. Then there is a unique line, unique geodesic passing through them. Okay, so since this is also a Mobius transform, this will have to take this red line to some other line. This red line will be taken to another line, joining the image of these points. So these points will be taken to some points, and this line will be taken to a line joining those 2 points. But since in our case this is hyperbolic, it fixes these points. These 2 points are fixed. So in our case, we will not have this extra line. We will have the same. Just draw. So this red line is always taken to itself. Not all points are taken to one another. Like this point could be taken to this point. This point could possibly go to some other point. But this thing is, as a set, this whole line is taken to itself. Okay. So given any hyperbolic isometry, you have two fixed points. These two fixed points give a line. That line I will call as the axis of this isometry. Okay. And, so one other thing that happens is, suppose you had this. Suppose this was the axis of your hyperbolic isometry. Some h you take belong to. Okay, suppose this was the axis. Any point here will be moved a certain distance. It will be moved to some other point, but this distance d will be a sort of fixed. So if you had any other point, this will also be moved to some other point, but this distance will be the same. Okay. Why is this? Basically, this is because it is an isometry. Okay.
What about points closer to the boundary points?
Yeah, it will, like, in the Euclidean distance, they will be very small, but the hyperbolic distance will be same.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because this is hyperbolic. I mean, isometry of the hyperbolic space. This distance, like this movement distance, will always be constant.
Okay.
Yeah. Because doing that calculation will be hard. I'll just say what that looks like. So, okay, this is some formula. This hyperbolic isometry is satisfied. Okay, so just to talk more about hyperbolic isometry. So take your upper half space 0. So I said any hyperbolic isometry, any so this is what I had claimed, that saying any hyperbolic isometry, you can reduce it to this form. So how can you do that? Given any hyperbolic isometry, you had a axis, right? Axis had two fixed points on the boundary. You can find some map taking these two boundary points to 0 and infinity respectively. And if you conjugate by those two, you will get a new map which will have 0 and infinity as its fixed points. Okay. And if you solve for it, if you like write AZ plus B by CZ plus D and see which maps have 0 and infinity as fixed points, you will see that you will get only these ones. Only maps of this form can fix 0 and infinity. So any hyperbolic isometry, you can think of it as this prototype. Okay, what else is happening here? So this is our axis here. This imaginary line, this is the axis. And if you take any point here, if lambda was greater than 1, it would move up. If it is less than 1, it will go down. But just assume for now, if it is greater than 1, so every point kind of moves in one direction. Okay, if you take another point here, it would also move this way. Okay, so these hyperbolic isometries, you can think of them as a sort of translation along the axis. Okay, like if you have any point here, it will always be moved this way. It will always move this way. It could be the downward direction also, but it is always one direction, and this distance is always fixed, which is given by this formula. All right. I will not prove this also. But again, you can just by looking at this, you can calculate the trace of this. So this will be given by the matrix root of lambda 0, 0, 1 over root of lambda, because you want determinant to be 1. So you take this, look at the trace of this, and you square it. And so I also gave a formula for calculating distance between these 2 points, right? So if this was I, this would be lambda times I. So there is a distance formula for this. And if you just do that calculation, you will see that these two will be equal. Okay, that is the proof. Another lemma. So another lemma here is, if you have two isometries which commute, then they have the same fixed point set. Okay, so first I'll prove this direction. So suppose these two isometries commute, and is suppose P is a fixed point of T, then we can see that ST of P, this is equal to S of P, but TS of P, but this is also equal to TS of P, which means T of SP. So which means S of P is also a fixed point. Okay. So now if T was, what do I want to say? Okay. So what I'm saying now is, you look at the fixed points of T. So if you took any element of fixed point of T, then so if you give me one element of this fixed point set, S of P will also be an element. So basically S acts on the fixed points of T, meaning it will take one fixed point to another fixed point. It goes the same way for T and S interchange. Okay. So now if fixed point of T had only one element, say it was elliptic or parabolic. So if there was only one fixed point in the interior, then S of P would have to be the same element P. So P would also be a fixed point of this. Similarly, you can argue for T and S, so which will mean that fixed points of T will be this one element P, which is also same for fixed point of S. Okay. If it is hyperbolic, then there is a little bit of it is slightly difficult to do. So okay, I will try to put this proof in the notes, but right now I don't remember. This is slightly harder. If okay,
Karthik, if it is elliptic, it means that it has only one inside the disk, but it might have some points on the boundary also, fixed points.
yeah, you can prove it does not. So if it had one point on the boundary, then you can draw a line going through that point and the interior point.
Okay.
This line will also go and intersect at some other point.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can also prove that that point will also have to be fixed. That point can go nowhere else.
Okay, then it's.
Then you
Okay.
get 3 points which are fixed, which means its identity.
Okay.
So there are no other fixed points on the boundary.
Okay.
So yeah, so parabolic and elliptic have only one fixed point, so this is fine.
Okay.
When it is two, there is some argument where you have to look at the line joining them, but I don't remember now. Anyway, so the other direction is yeah, this is also by cases. So any parabolic isometry, I said you can conjugate to look like this in the upper half space. This is basically Z going to Z plus alpha. Okay, just by making these observations, you can prove the other direction. Okay. One important corollary is so if you have two hyperbolic isometries commuting, which means they must have the same axis. Okay, and if two hyperbolic isometries have the same axis, they will commute. Okay, so these are some important properties of this these three classifications. I will stop here. Are there any questions?